I think what you've given us is this beautiful view of the intellectual milieu, that intellectual context in which Islamic philosophy arose. So you're saying that it was the Quran that gave Arabs, post-Islamic Arabs, we could say, 7th century Arabs, this idea of pondering, of questioning, of asking really important questions about existence, about the universe. But Dr. Hamid, we usually get the impression, at least the impression that we get when we read books, especially from Western scholars, that as if Muslim philosophers, they had nothing to do with Islam. They were like heretics, and they were, very heterodox in their ideas. They were more inspired by Greek philosophy than with the Quran, the way you're describing it. And they say that, the Quran almost played negligible role in the development of Islamic philosophy. So, what would you say to that?
Basically, all the Muslim philosophers may start from Al-Kindi. And Al-Kindi was the first Muslim philosopher. Now, there has been a discussion whether he was Arab philosopher or a Muslim philosopher. That's not important for us. Because in Islam, we don't have these nationalistic feelings at all. Because whole world is created by Allah. And there is no race distinction because of race, ethnicity, and color, and such type of other backgrounds, regions. He was the first philosopher who has talked about universe, who has talked about creation, who has talked about harmony between religion and philosophy. And he has used the Quranic terms like Khalik, like Badiu Samawat wal Ard, Khalikus Samawat wal Ard. And in this way, and he belonged to the family of a Sahabi, Qais bin Ashash. And you can understand that he was the first Muslim philosopher, Al-Kindi, Yaqub Al-Kindi, and he has used Quran extensively in his philosophical discourses. So in this way, we can't say that it was something which was not related to Islam at all. This is true that later on, Greek philosophy had a great impact on Muslim philosophers, but still they were very much, considerate about the fact that they should not deviate from the way of the Islamic teachings. Although in interpretation of various Greek theories, they have sometimes compromised also, no doubt in that. And for that reason, Ghazali had to just come out with a very scathing criticism against Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi. And he has just written several books. One book was Maqasid al-Philosopher, and then there was Al-Munkiz min al-Zalal, and then was Tahabat al-Philosopher, and then Amiyar al-Ilm, and Al-Qistas al-Mustaqim, and several books Ghazali has written, and where he has criticized some of the views of the philosophers. But it does not mean that philosophers were doing that deliberately. Definitely, when you are studying some alien thought or foreign thought, there will be the, considerate or inconsiderate or the subtle influences from that thought. And the worldview, that is Weltanschauung of the Greeks, which was based on polytheism or paganism, or I should say pantheism in some ways, or that was based on the Neoplatonic thought, which was very much related to emanation and such type of theories. So there had been impact on it, but we can't say that they deliberately tried to deviate from Islam. They tried to be very much loyal to the spirit of Islam and see the terminology they have used. For example, this philosophy was known as Ilahiyat. Ilahiyat means theology.
Theology.
So that philosophy, metaphysics was considered to be Ilahiyat. Ilahiyat means theology in a sense. They met the subject which related to Allah, related to God, Allah. So in this way, we can't say that they were deliberately trying to just to deviate from Islam, and they were trying to be conscious about the fact. And they have discussed all the subjects which have been mentioned in the Quran. For example, about Allah, about creation, about the qualities of God, about essence of God, Zato Sifat, and also about destiny of man, and also about Taqdeer, and also about spirit, that is soul and ruh. And in this way, almost all the mabahis or the discussions of the philosophers, those were somehow or other related to Islamic terminology and Islamic ethos and Islamic teachings, Quranic teachings. And they tried to be very much loyal to Quran and Sunnah. But in their interpretation, they have just also deviated sometimes, consciously or unconsciously, from the paradigm which had been set forth by Quran and Sunnah. For that reason, they were criticized by the muhaddisin, like Ibn Salah, like Ahmad bin Hanbal, and then also Ibn Taymiyyah. Although the context of the criticism was different at different times and periods, but we can say that these philosophers never tried deliberately to go away from Islamic way. They rather tried to Islamize Greek philosophy, not Hellenicize Islamic philosophy or Islam. So in this way, we have to understand that. That's very important, because the terminology they have used, they have taken that from Islamic, scriptures.
That's very nice. I really like the way you said that they Islamicized Greek philosophy. Actually, if I remember correctly, it was Al-Kindi who said that we shouldn't be, I think I read this quote from Al-Kindi who said that we shouldn't be shy of taking sources if it comes, knowledge from sources, even if it comes from sources outside of Islam and Muslims. And that looks so similar to what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that seeking wisdom is obligatory on all Muslims. And he takes it wherever he finds it. Sometimes you find it with a non-Muslim, sometimes you find it in a completely non-Muslim, non-Islamic society like the Greek, philosophy. So what you're trying to say, if we can understand, is that they took those elements which they found were those could be Islamicized or those could be reconciled with the Islamic tradition, and they did so with a methodology from the Quran that believed that wisdom is God's property, therefore it's the Muslim's property, and we can take it wherever we find it.